What's up, guys? It's my Fantasy Football 2016 Draft Recap Season Team Preview video. I know everyone should be pretty excited about at least one of these. I know I'm always get excited for either Pats or Jaces or Casses to come out or something like that. I thought I'd get it out of the way now. First off, our draft was freaking awesome. Not just the draft, but the whole weekend. I am just wish we could do that every weekend, but obviously we can't now that we're officially old, all of us, which sucks. But thank you guys all for whoever came in from out of town, from coming in town, and everyone for staying the whole weekend. It was so much fun. So let's get right to it. First off, the draft itself. It was an epic draft. Everyone did really, really, really well, as Cass mentioned too in the email. No one had a laughable pick. No one could get mocked for really anything. There wasn't really any really huge, why'd you take that guy or who'd you have over that guy kind of thing. Most of the picks were, really well in line with what you would see going towards them. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's team is even, which I'll get into here pretty soon, but overall, I think everyone did an awesome job from top to bottom, and our league this year is going to be the most competitive it's ever been, and that's saying something because last year was crazy. So what I'm going to do in this video is I am going to go and rank each of our teams from 10 to 1, the teams that I think from worst to first. And whenever I rank the team, I will talk about their draft a little bit. I will talk about their team, what I like and what I don't like about it. So let's get right to it. Like I said, everyone's really close. The difference between the 10th team and the first place team is not as much as you would think. But someone's got to be last and someone's got to be first. So let's get this bad boy started. First, we're going to go with Ryan Cable. I have him at 10. Ryan, you know a lot about football, you know a lot about drafting, you know a lot about sports in general, but I just didn't like your team too much. You know me, man. I'm not big on picking quarterbacks early in our fantasy football league. I really am not. And you took not one in the first round, but you took one in the first, and your second round pick was also a quarterback. And I don't mind your first round pick. Aaron Rodgers dropping to you. That's great value right there. I figured he was going to be gone as well. But Andrew Luck in the second, man, that was not a pick that I liked at all. And it wasn't just the fact that it was a quarterback. It was the fact that who you took, That means you had Andrew Luck as your third-ranked quarterback. I had Breeze ahead of him. I had, Russell Wilson ahead of Andrew Luck. I even personally had Ben Roethlisberger ahead of Andrew Luck. So that's just my personal opinion. I didn't really like the Andrew Luck pick right there. And then to compound that, you went with all the guys that are on both those guys' teams. You went with both of the Packers wideouts with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. And you also went with T.Y. Hilton. I think Jordy Nelson and T.Y. Hilton are going to have really good seasons. I don't think Randall Cobb is going to be that productive this year. But, you kind of put all your eggs in a couple baskets with the Packers and the Colts. I also think that in you wanting to do that, you kind of put yourself behind an 8 ball with not taking running backs when you should have. You were determined to get those guys that could connect to the quarterbacks, that you left yourself hanging with running backs. You don't really have a strong core. I think Arian Foster is like your starting running back, which is pretty weak. So those are the reasons I have you at 10. I like your quarterbacks. They give you a fighting chance every single week, which is awesome. Those guys can put up, they can put up 70 points a week some weeks, 35 and 35 from each of them, which we've seen happen. So it's like I said, it's not terrible. It's just I didn't personally enjoy the team. So that was Ryan. Next, we're going to go number 9. Number 9, I have the Cal Zone. Cal, you've had solid teams the last few years, but I wasn't a big fan of this one particularly. More specifically, your running backs. I didn't mind the Eddie Lacy pick really, but the fact that you're starting Jeremy Hill and Spencer Ware is not good for your team. Spencer Ware's a backup. I mean, you're starting a backup running back, and technically Jeremy Hill is almost a backup. Like, for you to have your number 2 and number 3 running back be almost backups is not good for your team. So I think that drastically hurts your team really bad. You know, I think you went for Demaryius Thomas, which is not bad. You know, he's a really talented running back or wide receiver, but you know, is he going to go back to 3 years ago? Is he going to go back to last year? You know, they don't. What do they have? Mark Sanchez. You know, we don't really even know what Denver's QB situation is like. So it's always risky taking a wide receiver for a team that we don't know their quarterback situation. So, you know, your QBs with Bortles and Newton, dominant, man. I mean, I love Cam Newton. I think he is a stud. He's going to destroy people. Bortles I'm not as high on as some people are. I don't really mind the pick. You took him, you know, you took him as I think the 5th quarterback off the board. So can't really complain about that. You better just hope he does what he did last year, and those 2 guys might be able to carry you. But the running backs might be too much. They might be anchoring you down. So after that, we're going to go number 8. Number 8, we're going to go with Barreto. Barreto, your first 4 picks were freaking awesome in the draft. Everyone was really impressed. I know I was. I think you made the right call with the David Johnson pick. I mean, I would have taken AP over that guy, but I'm not saying that was the wrong call. David Johnson was ranked higher pretty much on everyone else's board at that point. He could end up very well being the number 1 fantasy player in the league. He has the ridiculous talent, and he's in probably the best offense in the NFL. So that was a crazy good pick. Then you came back around, got Gronkowski at great value in the 2nd round. So you pretty much could have the number 1 running back and definitely the number 1 tight end in the NFL. You know, that Tom Brady pick a little bit later, he's going to miss those 4 games, but when he comes back, he's going to be scary good. He's going to be pissed. He's going to throw it to Gronk a lot. So that's going to mess with teams, mess up teams a lot. And I think in our league, you're hoping to play Justin in those first 4 weeks before he gets Brady back. So those are the things I like about it. Your flex players are pretty shitty. You don't really have very much depth on your team. You're starting 2 tight ends. I know we give you shit every year for drafting a lot of tight ends, but there was no point for you to draft Kelsey where you did, and to want to start him there. You could have taken a wideout. Wideouts have more potential. Wideouts can have lucky 120 and 2 touchdown games. Very rarely do you see tight ends get 120 and 2 touchdown games. It just doesn't happen. So you drafted really well, really early, but after that it just kind of faded. I think it started with the Dante Monteith's pick, and then after that your ADD kicked in and you kind of just lost focus. So either way, your top heavy of your draft is going to carry you to a few wins, and that's why I have you kind of at 8. Number 7 in our order, I'm going with Denny Two Shoes. Denny, I like the front end of your team. You had AP, you had Dez as those first 2 picks. I freaking love Dez Bryant, and I love AP. I think those guys are going to be monsters, and they're both going to be top 3 at their position this year. You know, Dez is going to go back to how he was 2 years ago, and AP is freaking AP, so you can count on anything you want from him. Other than that, though, I was a little disappointed with your team. Your wide receivers are kind of weak. You went with Edelman early. I'm not a big fan of Edelman. He can be great. He's had some nagging injuries in the preseason, number 1. Number 2, Brady's missing 4 games, which really hurts Edelman for 4 games. And he's your number 2 wideout. You also have Tyler Lockett as your 3rd wideout. I love Tyler Lockett. Ask anyone that I've talked to. Tyler Lockett is the man, but he's more of your 4th wide receiver flex option, and not necessarily your 3rd wide receiver. And if he is your 3rd wide receiver, which he is, you better have some monsters at other positions. You don't have monsters at other positions. You got AP, which is awesome, but you got Mark Ingram. Now, a lot of people are really high on Mark Ingram, and I can't fault him for that. I am not one of those people. He's been injury prone his whole career. He's a running back for the Saints who throw the majority of the time. Yes, he does catch balls out of the backfield, but he's just not my bag. So I kind of am a little bit down on that. And then your 3rd starting running back is DeMarco Murray. Now, he could be awesome. He could be the DeMarco from 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago. But, is he? I mean, it's Tennessee's offense. How good can Tennessee's offense really be? Plus, it's freaking DeMarco Murray. They drafted Derrick Henry this year for a reason. They're going to pound him in on the goal line. What does DeMarco really give you? So I was a little bummed out with the DeMarco pick. The thing is, saving your team is I love your quarterbacks. I love Big Ben and I love Tony Romo. I actually had told people before the draft, I actually think Big Ben's going to end the season as the number one scoring fantasy quarterback. I wouldn't have taken him first before those quarterbacks. I don't have the balls. But I just have this weird feeling he's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns. I think he's going to be the man. And if Romo stays healthy, that connection to Dez is going to – it definitely will get you close to the playoffs this year. I just have a feeling, though, that, the Edelman and the DeMarco pick are going to end up hurting your team in the long run. Either way, really solid team. Just someone had to be at rank 7. So after that, we're going to go to Jace at number 6. Jace, your team is really, really strong. You had those monster guys in the first round with Julio Jones, who I'm obsessed with, and you went with Gurley. You made the right pick, man. I know you're not a fan of Gurley, and I know it's the Rams and they suck, but Gurley's going to be the man. I'm telling you, man, you're going to be happy with him. You're going to be his biggest fan by the end of the year. After those 2 picks, though, your team is it's a good team, but I just have some question marks. I mean, Ryan Matthews is your number 2 running back. Ryan Matthews hasn't stayed healthy his entire career, period. Number 1. Number 2, he's for the Eagles, who we really don't even know if the Eagles offense is really going to produce too much, to be honest with you. And the Eagles still have Sproles to come in on passing downs. So Ryan Matthews would be an okay number 3 running back, but he's your number 2 running back, unfortunately, which hurts your team quite a bit. You also drafted Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd is really talented guy. Has some injury concerns. He did really well some games last season. He showed some games last season. The problem is he's your number 3 wide receiver. And when you have all those Arizona wide receivers, that's why I stayed cleared from all of them this year. Larry Fitzgerald got touchdowns last year. Michael Floyd kind of got a little bit of touchdowns, a little bit of yards, and John Brown got a ton of yards. So they're all going to have good weeks randomly, but there's going to be no consistency amongst all of them. And you took him a little earlier than I thought you should have, but we'll see how he does. Your other flex, Duke Johnson, it's the Browns running back, and it's fucking Duke Johnson. So, it is what it is. Your quarterbacks, Eli and Derek Carr, they're great fantasy quarterbacks. They're going to do really well for you. Hopefully that with Julio and Gurley will excel you to get close to making the playoffs this year. But as of right now, I don't see it happening. So after Jace at 6, we're going to go with Romanowski at number 5. Matt, you had the first pick in the draft. You had people leaning towards what the hell's Matt going to do? What the hell's Matt going to do? And you ended up just going the way everyone thought you should go, and you made the right pick, buddy. Antonio Brown, he's a monster. He's a freak. He's Mr. Consistency in the NFL. You can't really beat the guy. So you made the right call then. After that, your draft was a little bit interesting. I don't mind the Drew Brees pick where you got him. You went with Drew Brees, and then you followed it up with Sammy Watkins. I love Sammy Watkins. I really do love Sammy Watkins. I think there were maybe a few other guys on the board that you could have taken there. You should have probably won a running back there, to be honest with you. You drafted a wide receiver first overall, then you followed it with Brees. The running back position did not have a lot of depth this year, and for you to wait till the end of the 4th round to take one is a little bit risky, and because of that, your team got hurt pretty bad. I mean, you have Latavius Murray, you have D'Angelo Williams as your starting running back, and kudos to you for snagging him late in the draft, and he's going to start for you those first 3 games, and he's probably going to do, we play the first week, so you might throw it in my face, but either way, that's 3 games of the season. After that, you're going to throw in Melvin Gordon. You're going to have Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray. We'll see how that works. Not to mention, I mentioned those Arizona wide receivers. John Brown. John Brown's been dealing with concussions this season. We'll see if he even starts game 1, number 1. Number 2, it's Arizona wide receiver. He'll have great games and he'll have off games. And then to top it all off, you want Jimmy Graham at tight end. And Jimmy Graham, I doubt even starts this season. And when he does, we'll see what he can do. I think Jimmy Graham's days are behind him. So that's how I feel about your team. You're really top heavy. I like some of the players on your team. That's kind of why I put you at 5. Number 4, after Matt, we're going to go with Pat. Apex Predators, the current champion of our league. Pat, I like your team a lot. You drafted really, really well. Some of the things I don't necessarily like think are some of the weak points of your team. It's going to be Jonathan Stewart and Laquan Treadwell. Your flex positions are so-so. Laquan Treadwell, yeah, and I know he's supposed to be the main guy in Minnesota and supposed to be the man, but they're just trying to keep Teddy Bridgewater. He's like the Alex Smith of the NFC, to be honest with you. And Laquan Treadwell is not Jeremy Maclin. So that's kind of a little down on him. And then Jay Stu, we'll see. I mean, you could get really good value out of him where you took him, but I'm not a big fan of Jonathan Stewart. Never been a big fan of Jonathan Stewart, and that's not going to change this year. Now, you got Langford as one of your running backs, but in general, I mean, it's just not super strong. Now, I love LaShawn McCoy. You took him right before it freaking got to me in that 3rd round, and I want LaShawn McCoy so bad. So I think LaShawn McCoy is going to end up damn near close to the top 5 of running backs this year. So you got an awesome player there. But, you made the right pick in the 1st round with ODB. You took Russell Wilson in the 2nd round. I can't blame you for taking him. I'm not a big Russell Wilson guy, but everyone else thinks he's going to be a monster of the year. So you got Russell Wilson, you got ODB, LaShawn McCoy. I mean, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, that's what they all say you should start with. That's what you got. But other than that, your team kind of is a little muddled down. I mean, you have Mariota as your 2nd quarterback, which I saw today. You benched him and picked up Garoppolo. I mean, really? I know that, and I did see your email, so I'll give you credit for your email, maybe looking for another quarterback. So you are admitting to a weakness of your team, which very few people do. So I'll give that to you. And like I said, you're at 4, Pat. So if my projections are right, you make the playoffs because I do like the topness of your team. But some of those positions could be a little watered down, and we'll see we'll see what it does. Overall, I'd like your team though. After Pat at 4. We're going to go with me at number 3. I didn't have a pick till the 2nd round. I took Charles and Bell back to back. I couldn't say no to the value, especially at Bell. I really, really like my team. The main problem with my team is the injury factor, and that's a big part of fantasy. Does Bell injury / suspension? Does Bell stay healthy when he comes back from his injuries? Does Jamal stay healthy the entire season? We'll see. That's basically going to make or break my team, regardless of if I have handcuffs or not. I really love my wide receivers. To get 4 wide receivers and a high tier wide receiver at all 4 positions, with Mike Evans, Brandon Marshall, Doug Baldwin, and Kelvin Benjamin, I was really happy about that. And I actually really liked my quarterbacks with Winston and Kirk Cousins. I think they're going to be great fantasy quarterbacks this year. So I can't really complain. I think at full strength, my team has a chance to be the best team in the league. But, that's a big if at full strength. So that's why I put myself at 3. Number 2, we're going with Casanova. You did tons of planning, you did tons of mocks, tons of studying, you had your tiers, and your team ended up really well. I think it ended up working really well for you. Your first pick, I agreed with it with the AJ Green / Ezekiel Elliott coming through. I think you probably would have rather had Des Bryant than AJ Green there, but I agree with you not wanting 2 Cowboys on your team. So that was definitely a really good pick. And then after those picks, you just continued to get better. You went a little later with quarterbacks. You drafted Palmer pretty early, and then you got Matt Ryan later, which I like both of those guys. I think Palmer's the man. His injury concerns, I think, are behind him by now. And Matt Ryan last year threw the ball a ton. What a lot of people don't know is the Falcons throw the ball a ton. Just the thing is, Devontae Freeman got a lot of those touchdowns last year rather than Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. I think that's going to change this year. I think Matt Ryan's going to be a great fantasy quarterback. So, Cass, I love your quarterback. I love AJ Green. And I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to definitely excel. The things I don't really like about your team, your flex plays, once again, that's a theme I've been seeing a lot of throughout our teams is the flex players are a lot of times second tier or not even starters, which yours don't necessarily have that problem. You have Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings, Giants running back. So it is what it is. He's a starter, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But we'll see how that works out for you. I'm also not sure about Marvin Jones as your number 2 wide receiver. Number 2 flex. We will see. You got Decker, which he's going to get the touchdowns, and we'll see how his yards come. And then you got Macklin, which as Chiefs fans, we better hope he does damn good. So I like your wide receivers a lot. I like your quarterbacks a lot. I like Ezekiel Elliott a lot. The big thing is, and what I wrote down in the notes was, dude, Thomas Rawls is going to make or break your season, I have a feeling. And I'm not saying if he does bad, you're going to do bad, but I'm saying if Thomas Rawls does good and he stays healthy, you will probably win the Super Bowl this year. You'll at least end the regular season in first place. For you to get a guy who's going to take over that backfield and produce kind of like on a Marshawn Lynch level, which he did when he was in last year, that's going to make or break your season. So I saw you picked up Christine Michael today, which is probably a good idea. But we'll see about the Thomas Rawls pick. It's huge. Either way, you're at number 2, and I love your team. Number 1, Tim. After all the shit talk, after all the crap we were saying to Tim about he doesn't know anything, Tim, who you taking, Deuce Staley, all these different things, who would have thunk it? Tim ends up number 1. I was looking over his whole team, and I love it. He kept it steady Eddie the entire time. He didn't reach on anyone. He took DeAndre Hopkins at his pick, which a lot of people were surprised about with AP on the board, but technically that's probably the right pick, especially based on a lot of boards. DeAndre's he had huge volume last year with questionably a worse quarterback. This year, they're going to look to get to him. Coming back around in the second round, he snags Lamar Miller, which was great value. I was really high on Lamar Miller. The only question mark there was they're both on the same team, so you better hope Houston scores a lot of points this year. Either way, though, both those players I was really, really high on. You got Doug Martin, a good value where you got him. He produced last year. I don't know how much he's going to produce this year, but he's still a solid number 2 running back where you got him. I like Keenan Allen a lot. I think we both know the Chargers are going to throw the ball a ton, and before he got hurt last year, he was a monster receptions machine. I think his touchdowns are going to go up a little bit as well. And he got Golden Tate late. And I'm a huge Golden Tate guy. In my mocks, I snagged him. I did a Yahoo Public League before this draft, and I snagged him. I think Golden Tate is going to have a great, great year. And the fact that you got him late shows you knew what you were doing. And I was talking earlier about the flexes being weak. You, on the other hand, have great flexes. You have C.J. Anderson in your flex. So a starting running back for Denver, last year and the year before, that pick was in the first or second round. Those people were depending on that Denver running back to be their number 1 running back. You have him now as your flex, as your third running back that you can flip-flop anytime you want. And that's great value, So, we'll see. You got Allen Hurns as your other wide receiver. I don't think he's going to do what he did last year, but still that's good value as a 4th wide receiver, especially for a team that is going to be passing a lot. So, Tim, I really, really like your team. I think right now when you look at it based on suspensions or health or anything, like if you just take a snapshot of everyone's teams right now, I think it's going to be hard to deny that you shouldn't be in the top 4 of rankings kind of like this. So either way, guys, our league is going to be awesome this year. And the draft was awesome. The entire weekend was awesome. And like I said, the difference between Ryan at 10 and Tim at 1 is really little. It's really, really, really little with Ryan's top tier quarterbacks and Tim's balance and everyone else in between. So we all did an awesome job this year. And I cannot wait for week 1 coming up here in a few weeks, guys. I hope the video was good. I tried to keep it pretty short. And I can't wait to see your guys's. So I will talk to you guys soon. Later.